In 1996, Tecmo started a revolution, the effects of which are still felt to this day. It started with an idea, courtesy of the game's director, Mr. Tomonobu Itagaki. It had dawned on him that recent 3D fighters of the time, like Virtua Fighter and Tekken, were indeed great games, but they were missing something. Something big. And that something was a dedicated button for parrying and counterattacks. Now that was a true game changer. It's pretty obvious that Dead or Alive was heavily inspired by Virtua Fighter in its gameplay. It features a very similar combo system and physics engine, but I will say that there's a certain smoothness and sense of speed here that I didn't get from the first couple of Virtua Fighter games, and I'd actually rather play Dead or Alive any day of the week. This first game in the series is a lot better than a mere knockoff would have any right to be, which is why it's the game that single-handedly saved Tecmo when they were in serious financial dire straits. That company owes a lot to this game, and its exaggerated jiggle physics, the power of the jiggle, literally saved a company from disaster. It's a power that must be wielded responsibly. This is not an overly complicated game. The combos are pretty basic, and the real variety comes in the cast of characters, which contains a range of personalities and fighting styles. For example, we get Ninja Babes, Kung Fu Babe, Wrestling Babe, and a bunch of dudes too. The gameplay is really smooth and responsive, and the inclusion of the throw/counter button really does do a lot to shake things up. It's just one more layer on a genre that generally requires some decent timing and reflexes to master. Again, I've never been a huge Virtua Fighter fan, even though that is the series that inspired the creation of DOA. But this game strikes a proper balance for me of speed, ease of play, and its variety of characters who, in my opinion, have much more interesting designs and personalities than those in Virtua Fighter. Loads of personality. On top of the gameplay are obviously the gimmicks, which are there just to spice things up a bit. For example, every arena features a danger zone that you have to move through before getting a ring out, and when you're knocked to the ground, it sets off an explosion that launches you into the air, leaving you open to follow-up attacks. Future games in the series would also feature all kinds of stage hazards, but at the time, a few explosions were sufficient to help this game stand out, and it does make the gameplay a little more interesting. It was all part of Itagaki's plan to make things more metal, so to speak, in a Motley Crue kind of way. Just throw in some explosions and some scantily clad women bouncing around, and you are bound to find an audience. Get ready to watch! With there being many sequels in the DOA series that feature greatly improved graphics and updated gameplay, the main question is if this original game is still worth playing today, and I say absolutely it is. Almost 30 years later, and this is still an extremely fun game that is very approachable to new players. If you have a PlayStation or a Sega Saturn in your game room, the original DOA is a classic that will make a great addition to your collection, and of course, you can't argue with that totally true-to-life physics engine that everybody seems to love so much. It has almost a hypnotizing effect or something. I suddenly have the desire to see these characters playing volleyball.
Ready?